Hi, my friends. My name is Andy Smith, and I'm the pastor at the Methodist Church here in LaGrange. And with me is Jim Howse. You've seen us both in other videos interviewing people in our community and trying to get out information about this coronavirus. Jim is a retired insurance salesman. He had his own company and is an expert in all things insurance. And one of the things that he'd like to share with you during this time of quarantine are ways that you can adjust your insurance perhaps to save a little bit of money on your premiums and other policies that you might have. And you may be thinking, well, this is about money. Well, these are trying times, and whatever we can do to help you in these tough economic times, we thought would be beneficial. And I'm grateful, Jim, for your expertise and willingness to share with everybody.
You bet.
So we want to just kind of talk about some considerations and reviewing your insurance policies, and Jim's going to offer you some insight and tips. So Jim, how would you begin this?
Well, I would begin this by reminding everybody that as their incomes have decreased, so has the incomes for insurance agents who've worked really hard to put together a great program for you. So as you discuss these variables with your agent, keep in mind that I'm not doing anything more here than to be informative so that you can have that discussion with your agent. And if some of these things, and they may have others, are better for your particular lifestyle and protecting your assets, etc., you can have that dialogue. The first thing I'd like to talk about is the personal lines insurance, which is your cars, your home, your boat, your camper, any kind of scheduled property that you may have. Several insurance companies have been giving shutdown discounts and return premiums. It started out at 10 to 25%, and now I understand recently that there is an insurance company that's just offering 45% back on your premiums simply because people aren't out driving as much as they used to. But here's some thoughts. If you're using one car and the other car stays in the garage or on your property, on that second car, you may want to talk with your agent about canceling the liability coverage, not the fire and collision and that sort of thing, because your mortgage company is going to require you keep that. But canceling the liability coverage until this is over and then reinstating it. If you're not using a motorcycle or a boat or a camper or a motorhome, you may want to consider canceling the liability coverage on those, not the physical damage coverage, but the liability until you start using them again. If they're just sitting in your garage, you don't need that right now. If you use your car or your truck in business, that is what's called a Class 3 rate, which is an expensive rate. And if you've been laid off or your hours have been cut back, you need to get your agent to consider reclassifying that to a 1A, which is staying at home car. It's like going to the grocery store, taking the kids to school, running errands, that kind of stuff. Or if you're driving your car to and from work and that work opportunity is not there anymore, that's a 1B, which is a higher classification, and you may want to consider that, moving it to a 1A. If you have jewelry or other valuable articles in your home, you might want to consider taking them to a safety deposit box and putting them in there, and because nobody's wearing their nice stuff out now because they're not going out to eat or anything, and canceling that policy until this is over and you bring those items back into your home. if you're financing your monthly premiums, many insurance companies are waiving the finance charges. So if you're paying $10 a month as a finance charge, talk with your agent about which insurance companies will waive those finance charges. It's really important that you not cancel the fire and the theft and the vandalism on any of these items, because one, the mortgage companies or the finance companies or the bank's going to want you to keep them, but two, things can happen even when they're in your garage. They can catch on fire, vandals can break in, you know, there's other things that can happen to them. Some of these reductions, if you can justify when you were laid off, or when your hours were cut back, or when the restaurant or the store that you worked at shut down, these can be backdated a month ago, 6 weeks ago, to whenever you can show your insurance agent and the company that you were out of using these things for business opportunities. So it doesn't happen to start right now. It could go back a month or 6 weeks. Just remember, when you're talking with your agent, these are just a few ideas. He may or she may have many more that can be helpful, and some of them you may not want to do, but there are ample reasons for you to discuss those. And this list is going to be on the website, and you can download it and take it as sort of a cheat sheet or a tutorial when you talk with your agent. And that pretty much sums up the personal lines aspects.
My friends, we're back, and in the second part of the video, in talking about the commercial aspects to insurance. We're with Jim. He, in our earlier video, spoke about some of the practical points in your personal insurance policies. Now we're going to ask that Jim talk about the commercial policies and how you might adjust those during this time of quarantine.
Hello again. In commercial insurance policies, we're talking about commercial automobile, general liability, workers' compensation, equipment floaters, umbrella policies. Once again, many insurance companies are offering lay-up or shut down or stay-at-home return premiums without going into any adjustments to the coverages. Just, we're seeing 10 to 25, maybe even as high as 35 or 40%. And you need to talk with your agent about whether that's a possibility. If you have commercial vehicles, delivery, plumber, painter, electrician, you have vehicles that go out to the job, and those vehicles are now idle because you're not being able to go into people's homes or workplaces. You may want to remove the liability coverage from those vehicles. Keep the damage, the fire and the theft and the vandalism, keep those in place. Lenders are going to require that. But when you can go back to work, then you want to reinstate the liability. Look for a refund on monthly finance charges. A lot of the commercial companies finance their own policies, and many are waiving the finance charges to help us all get through this period. If your policies, the premium is charged on a variable basis, let's say the amount of sales or the amount of payrolls or the mileage on commercial vehicles, and those vehicles are now idle or greatly reduced in the mileage, the payroll, the sales that you projected at the initial policy date may be severely reduced. And rather than waiting until the final audit to true it up with the accurate variable premium basis, You can do an interim voluntary audit where you send in documents that show your mileage, your payroll, or your sales, and get that reduced right now. It'll still be subject to a final audit at the end of the policy period, but you're not having to pay all that money in and waiting for the final audit to get it back. If you have idle construction equipment, cherry pickers, bulldozers, graders, that kind of thing, once again, you may want to remove the liability or consider removing the liability policy on those vehicles and those equipment that are sitting in your yard idle. If you have an umbrella policy, which a lot of commercial accounts do, the premium for the umbrella policy is usually based on the underlying premiums for the automobile, the general liability, and the workers' compensation. So if those are down and you are effective in negotiating reductions with the help of your agent, then the umbrella carrier should, and there are a lot of them willing to do it, even though they may say it is a minimum and earned premium, they're willing to make those reductions now as a goodwill effort to help their customers. Once again, on payrolls for workman's compensation, if you've had to lay people off, if you've had to reduce their hours, and the payroll is down, the premium will go down with that payroll, and you can do it now. You don't have to wait until the final audit. Some of these, and maybe all of these reductions, can be backdated to when you actually shut down your yard or closed your commercial fleet or reduced it. That may have been a month ago or 6 weeks ago. You may be able to have those reductions backdated to that time. Once again, I offer these as information only for the discussion that you should have with your agent, keeping in mind that if you achieve these reductions, that reduces his income just like yours has been reduced by any shutdown that you've had. So he's worked, or she has worked hard to give you the right kind of program for your business, and you need to be able to recognize that with them and work with them to achieve any of these savings. And that's it. We're going to put this on the website so you can download it as far as a talking point to sit down with your agent. And good luck. I hope we all get back to work soon.
Thank you, Jim. God bless you. God bless you all, my friends. We'll talk to you again.